Oops. That was weird. I don't know what just happened. That was really weird. Give me just 1 second. I want to... I don't know what that did. Yeah, that was weird. Okay. I don't know if anybody else got a weird Google message, but mine like popped up and was like, we're going to kick people from the meeting. So if you guys got a weird message, that I don't know what it did. So yeah, that was weird. Let's get started. So yeah, it was really weird. Like it popped up for like a second and closed, so maybe it was just like a weird little error message. So yesterday we talked about building out pretty much single tables, and we didn't really connect everything. We ended yesterday talking about taking those tables and starting to connect it. So that's what we're going to really, really dive deep into today, is how to set up those relationships and how to use those relationships to our advantage. So we talked about primary keys and foreign keys. Somebody explain to me the difference between a primary key and a foreign key, or at least give me one difference.
The primary keys, they are unique, right? Mm-hmm. They're unique.
Yep.
I know that.
There we go. That's something. Okay. And Haley says primary keys can't be null. Yep. Okay, and then we got foreign keys can be null. Mm-hmm. Primary keys are...
Sorry, I keep saying. Foreign keys were to, weren't they to kind of take place of unexpected, or give it some space for unexpected data, something like that?
You can. So foreign keys can be null, so you can have space for other stuff, but they're primarily used for, like Christina said, referencing something in another table. Okay. So you can sometimes use it to just hold space because you don't know what that's going to be, but most of the time it's because there's something we want from another table.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Excellent. So what should we use as a primary key? What should we use? What kind of things should we use for a primary key?
IDs,
yeah. So we shouldn't use stuff that's not unique. So like, I worked with this dude, and he was doing a bunch of stuff for like a gym, and he was setting up the stuff, and he used last name as a primary key. I just looked at him and I was like, you know what my last name is? And he was like, yeah. And I'm like, do you see a problem? No. Because his last name, like, he was from a different country, and so like he had a super unique name, and so like he just didn't get it. Yeah. Some people have the same last name. My last name's Smith.
Mine is Williams.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and at one point I was actually a Smith on Main Street. Funnily enough, living next to another Smith on Main Street. The family next to us was Smith. So like, he can't be out here using non-unique names, non-unique things as primary keys. Exactly. Yeah. No relation. No. There was actually, at one point, there was 3 of us all living on Main Street, and the other girl looked like me, like pale white girl. And so like everybody thought we were siblings. Just, just how it worked,
Y'all look alike.
All y'all look alike. Well, she was a ginger, and so like,
Okay.
It wasn't terrible. It wasn't like, it was like a tall, willowy, dark hair, and then me. So like it wasn't unreasonable to assume.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The other girl though, she was like a dark-skinned black girl, so people were just like, yeah, you guys are siblings. It'd be like,
Have you looked at it?
Probably not. I was closer to her though than the girl who looked like me, but she was sweet. I think she has a kid now. Anyways, so we can't use that kind of stuff there because it's not unique. We also can't use personally identifiable information as a key because you use primary keys a lot and you don't want to put that protected information just out there. And so like social security numbers are unique, or like maybe a hospital gives you like a medical ID. You don't want to use those as your primary key because you access your primary key a lot. I don't know what just beeped. That was weird. So normally what we do for primary key is just make one. I don't know why something is beeping. I think it's Discord, but I don't know how to make it stop beeping. So sorry if you guys hear background beeping. Okay. Foreign keys, however, are used to reference a primary key in another table. So what that means is, let's say we had, okay, I got that because I thought I closed Discord and I thought I was going crazy. Yeah, I think it's my Discord because I opened it to send Chandler stuff so he can join our meets later. You're not going crazy. It's my Discord. So let's take a look and we're going to, let's draw some pictures. Let me get my thing we're going to draw. Do I want to draw? No, I think we'll be okay. We'll probably have to draw in a bit, but for right now, I think we'll be all right. So let's just think about this from kind of like a general state, and then we'll start to build out examples to back it up. So let's say we had, we have our database, and it's a database for a hospital. So we got, I'm going to go back to our drawing board thing. I like being able to take screenshots of it. And I know I'm terrible. I'll share it with you guys, though. You can add your own stuff. Or you can get people who have prettier handwriting to do stuff. Hello. Go. There you go. You guys can draw too now. Go. Take your own screenshots and addendums and all that. So, all right. Here we go. There we go. There's our database. Lovely. Can I type? I can type, y'all. Oh, that's much better. Database. Here's our database, and this is for our hospital. Okay. This is so much nicer. All right, we're learning a lot. So we got a database, and it's got some tables in it. So obviously, we could also use like a database creation tool like a Lucidchart, or I think you can do it in MySQL too. I don't know how to use MySQL to make the schemas, but I know you can do it. So we got some tables. So here,
it's not that hard.
Huh?
It's not that hard.
Yeah. Cool. Can I move it? I want to move it. No, can't move it. Oh well. So here we got, this is patients. Oops, that's the wrong kind of patients. All right, so we got patients here, and then maybe over here. I'll go up a little bit.
Oh my God.
Okay, let's spit out the commands. Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's see, doctors, and then maybe we also have like equipment and rooms. So I'm just gonna put like a equipment table.
Yeah. I hear you.
It's all right.
All right. So, and there's probably other stuff in our database, but this is what we're going to work with is, I want to have my patients be able to interact with doctors, and I want my doctors to be able to rent equipment, because like the doctor's got to book time for all the machines, or like if they want a particular room. Excellent. All right. So what kind of thing should we generate for a patient ID? Who thought this would be a good idea? Yep. I don't know, man. I feel like they like cheap out on all the peripheries for things. All right. So we're going to make a patient ID. And this is our primary key. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. We want it to be an int, and we want it to auto increment. What other things would we want in a patient table?
You want their name? First and last name?
Yeah, we'll just put name. What else?
Okay.
Date of birth.
Birthday?
Date of birth. Okay.
Reason for visit.
What?
The reason they're there.
Oh, reason? Okay. We'll do medical file because that'll cover a lot of stuff, like their history and stuff. Okay.
You want their phone number?
Insurance. There, that's good. That'll work. Everything else we'll just assume is there. So we got a bunch of stuff. So then now we're going to come over here. Medical file should probably be its own table. Probably. You're not wrong. But we'll put that into Branding Hospital, so there's not a lot of medical info. But you're probably not wrong. It should probably be its own table. Okay. So doctors are probably going to have an employee ID. And that's our primary key. All right. What else should our doctors have? What kind of information do we want to save for our doctors?
Name.
Their name.
Okay.
Their
Their
profession.
type of doctor.
I think it's called a specialty.
Specialty, yes.
Specialty? I don't think that's spelled right. ABA. All right. What else?
Their doctor's degree, like how far they went.
We'll put that with specialty.
Their address. Like their office address.
Okay. Office. Yeah. That's not a bad idea. All right. Cool. All right. Excellent. Okay. And then equipment. We're going to give it an equipment ID. What other stuff would we want to know? Type of equipment. Yep.
Quantity.
Oh, how much we got? That's a good idea. Quantity. I don't know if that's spelled right. Patient table should probably show their signed doctor. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get to the connections piece yet. So right now, all we're doing with all the separate pieces, then we'll connect everybody.
Cost?
That's what I want to know when I go to the doctor. Or am I going to die? Does it cost money? No, thank you.
And maybe the location it belongs in.
Yeah, location. Yep. Yeah, because if you got to book two pieces of equipment that are on opposite sides of the hospital, that kind of sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's go ahead and make a like is booked. You know, to probably get into like making a scheduling thing and all that kind of stuff. Come on, let me move it. I want it. No. I would like to just move this, please. There we go. Excellent. Okay. Where the equipment is, but that's probably a connecting piece. Yeah, we don't have anything more about that. So then let's go ahead and figure out how are these connected. So we haven't talked in depth about relationships yet, but we have a couple different types. I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna make another box. I'm gonna give him a new color. He's gonna be pink. This is our key. Okay. So these are our types of relationships. We have one-to-one, we have one-to-many, and many-to-many. So these are the different kinds of relationships that we can have. So a one-to-one relationship means that you can only have one instance of each thing connected to each other. Like a marriage, you know, you can only have two partners legally in a marriage. Whatever else you do is fine, but legally, you can only have your two partners in a marriage. You know, I'm not out here to judge, but that's what the tax documents say. So that's a one-to-one relationship. is you have one of each, and they only belong to each other, and that's it. A one-to-many relationship, on the other hand, means that one instance of something can have a bunch of other pieces, but all of those pieces can only have one relationship the other way. So, for example, a book review. So a book can have many reviews, but each review goes to that book. Or like a person can have multiple pets, but each pet only belongs to one person. Many relationships are just kind of things can have multiple relationships both ways. So this would be like yes, kind of. If it's like really healthy polyamory, yes. Everybody can have multiple partners and it's lots of fun. Yes. Many to many is like, maybe like I've never experienced this because my sibling is a boy and he's also like a foot taller than me. But like if you live with like a sibling that's like your same gender and like you just share all your clothes.
Oh yeah, like
both of the clothes have more than one owner, and all of the clothes, have multiple people in it. So that's a many to many. I think that one's kind of the hardest to visualize. I think everything else is pretty easy. But yeah, many to many means that like a thing can belong to multiple things, and a person or the other thing can belong to other stuff. Or maybe like a household. Many to many is communism. So like, you're working on your communist farm and everything belongs to everyone. Facebook friends. Each friend is connected to many others. Yeah, I like that. There we go. That's less, communist. So these are our different types of relationships. Each of these get a symbol. I don't remember what the symbols look like. Remember we looked at that one graph and it had like little triangle shapes and circles and like a fork shape. All of those are keys to those shapes. I'd have to look them up though to figure out which one belongs to which one. So now that we have an idea of what our relationships can be, let's think about what kind of relationships. Oh, yeah. Yes, if you have teenage daughters, everything is fair game. Yep. My mother cannot complain because she steals things from me all the time. And so I'm like, whatever. I take what I want. Because that's what she does. Yet if you wear those clothes, you're not cool. Poor moms. Yeah. No, I steal my mom's stuff all the time, and she steals my stuff all the time. So it's all good. Mostly I steal jewelry. That's typically what I steal. Or hair stuff. Basically. Yep. The other thing is hair stuff. I don't own a single like heat tool, and so if I need one, I'm like, hello, mother. I needed a hair dryer, and she's like, get your own, you gremlin.
Oh my god, it never stops. How old are you?
I turned 25 at the end of the month.
And
It
no.
Yeah. Yep. I still be like, Mom, I need and I go steal stuff. But to be fair, I currently have a pile of her jewelry that I fixed and cleaned for her. So
Nice.
it's a teamwork thing. Okay. So let's decide what kind of relationships this database has. What kind of relationship do Jim play that? Plus she's short. Yeah. No, like my mom is super like I don't believe in like owning things, and so like we've like never been super like picky about stuff, which is nice. Except for now, like if I go home, I'm like, where is everything? Because everybody moves it. All right. So what kind of relationship do patients and doctors have?
Hopefully a professional one.
Both ways.
Both ways. All right. We got to vote for 1-to-1. Is that true? Do all doctors only have one patient?
No, one to
I
many.
said one to many.
1 to many. Okay. Can a patient have more than one doctor?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
It
Yeah.
could.
So it's a many to many?
Yep. Many,
Yeah.
many. All right, I'm gonna just make these colors. These do have like actual symbols, but I'm just gonna give them colors because I don't remember what the actual symbols are. So that's gonna be blue. That'll be green. And then we'll make this one yellow. They have actual symbols. I will look them up, but I don't know. Okay, so we decided that the patient to doctor's relationship is many to many. So this. So how should we connect these two things? Which one should get a foreign key?
Which one should get a what now? Sorry.
A foreign key.
A what? So sorry.
The foreign key.
The forward key. Oh.
Doctors.
The doctor should get the foreign key.
The patient.
Neither?
So justify your answers for these because there's no wrong answers here. Just justify why you think your doctor should get the foreign key.
So the doctor should get the foreign key because the doctor is referenced to the patient.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other arguments?
I have a question. I know you said what it was earlier because I kind of got it a little off. What is a foreign key again? I should have wrote it down.
The foreign key is a piece of information we use to connect tables to each other. They reference another table's primary key.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
So, all right. So we're gonna put it over here unless anybody else has arguments. I don't think we got any other arguments.
I don't know. I feel like they both need like unique identifiers though. Because how are you going to find that doctor if he has like a foreign key can change? Is it, can it be manipulated? How are you going to identify?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So every time we create this relationship, we're going to make a new thing. So this relationship is going to make a new row. So probably the best thing would be to make like a active patients table would probably be the most appropriate database architecture. So we'd make this patient is at this, and we'd make like an active patients table would probably be the way to handle it dynamically. So that is a very good question.
I think so. The patient could have a foreign key as well to reference, in reference to the doctor. You look up their name, and I mean, she said that though. Sorry. Yeah.
No, it's all good.
No, we're just thinking the opposite end from the doctor end and the patient end, but it does make sense both ways. It does.
Yeah. All right. So what I'm going to do is we can have them reference to each other, and I don't think that's bad. We'd probably make this another table. I'm not going to teach you how to do this thing called database normalization. When you're doing database architecture and all that, there's this thing called normalization. And what that means is you go through and you make some kind of architecture, and then you go through and you follow these very specific steps to get the most optimized database. I'm not going to teach you how to do that because that's an architecture skill, and you probably won't need that, or you will need more than me teaching you in an hour. So we're not going to worry about making the best databases ever, but we will think concretely about what we're doing and what the implications mean. All right, so let's give it a patient ID, and this is a foreign key to patients. So our doctor knows what patients they have. And it can be null, because we can have no patients, or we can make a couple, this is the point where at this point we probably need to make some kind of different table. Because we couldn't necessarily represent that idea that the doctor has more than one patient. So we probably need to move this to his own table.
So to make that one have a foreign key, doesn't there have to be a primary key somewhere?
Yep, right here.
Oh.
The primary key exists in the patient's table. And that's why we wrote patients right here. But yeah, the foreign key needs a primary key in the table it's referencing. Good question. Okay. So besides the note that to probably do this right, we'd probably need a patient-doctor relationship table. Does that make sense? Cool. Okay. What kind of relationship do the doctors have to the equipment?
The use.
One to many.
One to many? Yep. Any other arguments against that or for it?
Well,
I mean, many
yeah,
doctors have one equipment, so
Mm-hmm.
but there's only one equipment.
Yeah, so there's only one piece of equipment. So, like, we can't check it out to more than one doctor at a time. So, one to many makes sense. Yeah, since each equipment can only be used by one person, but a doctor could check out more than one piece of equipment at a time. Like, if you want to do, I don't know, you need to do surgery, you probably need to check out a bunch of equipment. So, one to many. Okay. So where should our foreign key go, and what do we think that foreign key should be?
The foreign key should go to the equipment
Okay.
because depending on what kind of doctor it is and what they do, that's the type of equipment they need.
Okay, so we want to put the foreign key on the equipment table related to the employee ID so we know who checked it out. I like that. I think that makes sense. We give it a user ID, and that's a foreign key to doctors. Cool. I like that. Any arguments against that, or we want to do something else? Groovy. Do our patients and equipment have any relationship?
Yes, they use them.
They use them? Yeah. So what kind of relationship do our patients and equipment have?
Number one.
Many to many.
Many to one? Ooh.
I said one to one because the patient can, one to many actually. Patient can't use more than one equipment.
Yeah.
So yeah, one to many.
Okay. What kind of foreign key should we put in there?
Maybe should it go back under the equipment, a foreign key for patients?
Okay.
Patient ID.
Yeah.
What about patient having the foreign key? I think it'll be easier to see who checked it out or something.
So the doctor is going to be the person who checks it out. The patient ID is just getting used on them.
Okay.
Yeah. And either way would be fine. This is probably what I would do. I think this would make the most sense to generate like logs. So then each piece of equipment would have a user ID and a patient ID, so you know who checked it out and who it got used on. But yeah, cool. Excellent. So that's relationships in a bit of a nutshell. It's not like the most in-depth thing ever. How do we feel about relationships?
Good.
It's okay.
It's good. I just need to practice more with like in the actual database assigning the keys, like because I'm still on the struggle bus with that. So I know right now trying to give something a foreign key or make a relationship, I might struggle with a little bit only because I'm still trying to get a primary key to work. But it makes sense as far as the explanation of the relationships.
Cool. Excellent. And then couldn't you put a reciprocate foreign key in the patient table for equipment? Yeah, you could. You totally could. That would be fine. Especially for like your medical file. Bless you. Bless you.
Hey.
Bless you.
Oh, poor cat.
Yeah, today has been a struggle day. And putting a foreign key for the equipment probably wouldn't be a bad idea because then like all the insurance and medical files would have everything. So it's probably not a bad idea to put reciprocate keys on all of these. Again, like we talked about, your medical file might actually be its own table where you put all of those keys back in there. Probably be a more effective structure. Cool. All right. Is there anything else I want to talk about? Relationships with.
How do we do that in the sequel?
How do we put relationships in SQL? You make foreign keys. Let me open up Workbench because I closed it because I was doing stuff. I want something with a bunch of tables in it. Into here. Okay, here we go. So this is just a demo that I have. I don't know what it is. I think it was. I don't know what this is. Okay, so we're gonna use. Oh, hang on, let me zoom in. We're gonna use my. Ooh, somebody pulling in.
Okay. Okay. Jamming.
It is what in the study group or CBC 9? What are you asking me for? You're not asking me, you're asking Christina. Never mind. I don't know how to read. So first I want to show tables so we can see what's up. So we got all these tables in them. So now I want to describe all of them because all of these have relationships to each other. So especially I want to see, I think, customers, orders, and order ID. So I'm going to do describe customers. I'm going to do describe orders. And I think describe products. Give us a good idea of what's up. Okay. When you do the insert part, yeah, I'll show you that in just a second. Okay. So here we have a table. So these two rows or columns make sense. We got some stuff, we got some types, whether or not they're allowed to be empty. Here is the thing. I don't know what uni stands for. Hang on, let me look that up. I think that's saying uni MySQL. I think it's saying that that's receiving the foreign key, but let me double check. A unique, okay. What? Unique key, yeah, that's a foreign key. Okay, cool. Why is it not F? I don't know, but that's what it stands for. It's unique, and that means that it's a foreign key. So email address is linked to something else, probably orders. And then we got a primary key, which is a customer ID. Auto increment. Great. So then let's take a look at this one. So then here we go. We got this MUL one. Multiple occurrences are allowed. So what this is saying, this is a part that allows us to have this many-to-many relationship because, you know, a customer can have more than one order. And then let's see, where do these things connect? You probably get that. The shipping address ID from the customer table. And the billing address probably comes from that table too. We'll talk about how to get these kind of informations with joins, hopefully today. I think we'll get to them today. And then let's look at products. So how do products relate to orders? I don't know. We got a default here too that we haven't seen before. So if you know that you want to, if you know, somebody got some tunage. If you know that you want a default parameter, you can hand in a default instead of just making it be null, which can be really nice. Like if you know that one default that gets happened a lot is if you don't have a time, you just put the current time. So that's typically a pretty common default. Okay, so the other question was, how do I make things primary keys? You can also auto increment one key. Yes. Whatever your primary key is the only thing that can get auto incremented. So not necessarily the first one, but whatever you auto increment becomes your primary key. So the way that we do our primary key is this. Let me make it a little bigger. All right. Zizi, I'm going to mute you. I think you were the echoey one. Okay. Boop, boop, boop. Yes, no more echo. Excellent. Feel free to unmute yourself, though, if you have questions. Okay. So user ID is our primary key. I'm sorry. Yeah, primary key for a customer table. So it's an int. We say, hey, it can't be null. We use this auto increment, and then we say it's a key. And that makes it our primary key. Oh, just so you know, I switched over to the example that we were in yesterday, which I still haven't posted.
Why not?
Because
Because
I'm careful. I was fried yesterday. I didn't do anything. I had a milkshake for dinner.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was a good day. So I'll do that tonight or tomorrow. I still got to go through and fix some other stuff too. So, you know, one step at a time. All right. So that's how we do primary keys. Obviously, it can be other stuff. So like what if we wanted to make a string our primary key? We can do stuff like that too. To do our foreign key references, yeah, that's how I felt, is I just need calories and sleep. That is how I felt. This is how we do our foreign key reference, is we say, hey, I would like an ID. And I called it customer ID because that's what it is. It's a customer ID. And notice these two are not the same name.
Why
so
not?
Customers, why not? Yeah, that's a good question. So it's not confusing. So I want to know if I ask for customer ID that I'm inside the orders table. So you want to name it something that makes sense, and you can name them the same thing because sometimes it makes sense to make them the same name.
Oh, you got it at the end. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Reference customer use ID. Okay.
Exactly, yeah. So this is how we get it here, is we put table name and then the column name inside that table. And making the two separate names can really help with distinction, so that way you know where you are. So if I ask for customer ID, I know that this person has already placed an order. Versus if I get user ID, they're just a user on the site. Exactly. Name it so you can glance over it and know where it came from. Exactly. Yeah. And so in this case, a customer, you know, that's just user stuff, like they've made a user account, but maybe they haven't bought something yet. But an order, it's a customer ID, they bought something. And again, don't do this. Notice I have some pretty inconsistent capitalization, be consistent, and then use spaces instead of camel case. That's just some SQL syntax. It's not going to break if you don't, but that's the default way to do it. All right, so that's how we actually do it. This sets up the relationship, and this sets up the primary keys. Sometimes these are what we call business level rules, and so like even though in real life maybe there are exceptions to these things, that's just how we're implementing stuff. So like one-to-one, say a customer can only have a shipping address, and this shipping address can only have one customer. That might not be true in real life, because when my brother, me, and my parents all lived in the same house, we all had the same shipping address, but like obviously we're 3 separate customers. So that might not be true in real life, but you might make that a business level rule, and that's just what the rule is for the database. One-to-many, a book can have many reviews, but each review only belongs to one book. And another many-to-many one is a student can have multiple classes, and a class is made up of multiple students. So it's another many-to-many relationship. So any questions about these kinds of relationships.
Nope.
All right, so now we're going to do some math.
Yay.
Wait, Morgan, real quick. Will you show me, like, when you assign the primary key, when you go to put the values in the table?
Yeah, you don't have to.
So you can just, when you do values, like omit order ID.
Yeah, and so this auto increment is kind of the magic piece, and it means that we don't have to put it in there. So this is how we insert into here. We just give it a customer ID, which is from the customer ID table, from the customer's table, and then we give it a price. But we didn't have to give it an order ID because that auto increments. So it just does it for us. And that's because of this keyword. If we did not have the auto increment keyword, we would have to hand it in. And it would have to be unique, and we would have to do the work to make sure it's unique.
Okay. Oh, but you put it there and insert into, you just didn't put a value for it.
Yes, you don't have to. It does it by default.
Got it. Okay. Thank you so much. Now it makes sense.
And then ZZ says our class is one to many. Yes, I have many students, but you only have one teacher. Exactly.
Well, that's not really true.
Yeah, but they're not teachers.
Okay.
I'm kidding. Hardcore is really great. He's a wonderful resource. He's definitely, like, the last class I had so many kids, and he's definitely the reason I did not go, like, absolutely bonkers. Okay, so this next piece, again, this is not going to be the end-all, be-all. This is how all of this works, and you're going to be experts in it. 17 students. That was my biggest class, and that was a struggle. But it's okay. Having a smaller class is real nice, and you guys all listen, which is real nice. So joins are, so far we've seen selects and wheres. So we can get stuff out of one table based on conditions. So we can say, okay, show me all the employees whose name starts with an S. Show me everybody who makes more than $100 a week. Like, we can do all that kind of stuff. Just show me everything that's in this table. We can see that kind of stuff, and not terrible. But what about if I want to get information, I want to know the top 5 customers who buy stuff from my store. How do I get that kind of information? Because I need some stuff from multiple tables, right?
Yeah.
I need to know orders, and I need to know customer information. So we use join for that. So joins are a way of getting information from multiple tables in one statement. Okay, this is what they look like. You tell it what tables and what you want to get. So notice table name, column name, table name, column name. This from and join part, this is the part that, like, it does not alter tables. Yes, it just returns things. It does not change the structure. That is correct. Yeah. This is the part that's confusing to me. This might not be confusing to you at all. The top one, the from, is your left-hand side, and the inner join is your right-hand side. And the sidedness matters, again, because of that picture that I showed y'all before that we talked about yesterday. Soon. Okay, so we got left and right. Our from is our left-hand table, and our inner join, or left join, or blah, 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 whatever, join is our right. So A and B, like that. A goes first, B goes last, and they go like this. So this is going to say orders is A, and customers is B over here. So what that means is the order really matters, because if you flip those two things, your joins might be different and you might get very different results. So there's not a correct or an incorrect way. So like, let's say we want to do customers first. We just might need to do a different kind of join. So inner join does this. It gets information where both of them are the same. So this would show us customer ID on orders where customer ID equals customers, customer IDs. So like this says, okay, you know, show us everybody who's actually placed an order. Again, in this example, maybe people make accounts before they buy an item. So this would only show us customers who have actually placed an order. In this case, in an inner join, the order will be okay because it's just where they're the same. This is pretty common. We want to see data that exists in multiple tables or what that relationship looks like. He's not pretty common. Your inner join shows you a lot of stuff. So let's take a look and do an inner join. I'll put him here. I'm going to copy that because I don't ever remember this stuff. Okay, so this has an underscore in it. Customers is lowercase, and this. And we don't have a date, so I'm just going to get rid of that. From orders, and I think that's a lowercase o also. I think that's also a lowercase o. I don't think it matters, but we're just going to fix it just in case. Customers, where
User ID, right?
mm-hmm. I'm just copying and pasting it so that way I know there's no capitalization or spelling errors or anything like that. So now what we're going to say is, show me all the order IDs and the person's name. What was the right side? The right side of what?
There's still one orders that's capitalized on the bottom. After on.
And then move on is the relationship. This is your pivot point. So this says, I want to get information from these two tables where. This is basically like your where statement. So let's take a look and see what we get. I think we'll get nothing. Oh, wait.
The
Hang on.
is still.
Where did it go? Boop. Yay! We have one. We have one customer who's ordered something. There's their order ID and their name. So this username is coming from the orders table. So there's like, the orders table has no idea what the customers' names are in the table. But we can use these key relationships to kind of like open doors into the other database to get all the information we need. How we feel about that? This took me like 3 months to understand. So if you're even close to understanding it after a couple minutes, I'm proud.
That makes sense.
So that's our inner join. This gets things where they're similar. I'm sorry, exact same. I shouldn't say similar because it's not similar, it's exact same. That's this one right here. We have outer join, which would get things only where they're different. So let's take a look and see what that would be like. So we just change this to outer. I don't know what this is going to give us. What?
As
Outer
capitalization,
position. Why? Do I have to have an aware statement here? What do you want to go? Okay, so that's fine. Why can't I do an outer join there?
Maybe it has to be capitalized.
Maybe, and I think it might also have to be full outer join. Full outer join? How do you feel about that? Not otter, outer. How do you feel about that? No, you're still angry. Do I need to wear? Oops. Where customers dot user ID not nope. Can I do that? No. What am I doing wrong? Select from join on an aware statement. Or I don't need a where statement. I can just do this, right? Am I misspelling outer? Does it have 2 T's in it or something?
No.
Okay.
That was my bad. I apparently can't
Okay.
spell.
It's okay. I thought it and then I read your thing. Full outer join table name. Full outer join table name. Oh wait, do I not need that on? No, I need that on. Heh. Did I forget a comma somewhere or something?
MySQL's officially not my friend anymore.
Yeah.
I'm back to JavaScript.
Oh no.
Oh, because full outer joins don't exist in MySQL. It's a SQL flavor. Heh. I don't want to do a union.
Ooh.
Okay, can I do a left outer join? Will you quit whining if I do a left outer join? How do you feel about that? Okay, and a semicolon. Rude. Okay. So again, remember how I talked about how MySQL is an instance of SQL, like the actual language? Here's one of the edge cases that I've talked about, is that there's this thing called a full outer join in regular SQL that does not actually exist in MySQL. We can use this thing called union, which is a math way of saying everybody, to emulate it, but I just want to show you what an outer join looks like. So let's see what happens. Let's see what it gives us. Nothing. Oh wait, it still gives us Erica. That makes sense. What about a right outer join? I want something different. I think we still, because we have this on, I don't think it's going to give us anything different for any of these. There we go. We got Linda. Dun, dun, dun.
Erica.
But yeah. So outer joins get things where they might be unique in a table. Oh yeah, look at that. Teamwork. Excellent. So inner joins get where they're exactly the same and exist in both. Outer joins are typically more used like this, where like you want unique values from the table. So like, I want to see every customer who has not placed an order. Because then we're going to send them an email being like, yo, here's a 10% discount. Come buy stuff. Like Urban Outfitters did when we were talking about it. It's sketchy, homie. They sent me a $5 coupon. Sketchy. So that's an outer join and an inner join. We can also do left and right joins. And this is the part where like, I almost always have to draw this out. You don't struggle as much with left and right. It'll probably be easier for you. Left joins look at the first table and look to see what the relationship is there. So a left join with no exceptions is going to take everything in table A and return it. A left join where you're doing, we was hustling when they mailed us those, but that's how you pull. Yeah, man. Yeah, they're out the scams. I mean, if you shop there anyways, the coupons are nice. Like, you know, when PetSmart sends me a coupon, like, I gotta feed the cat. So, okay. But otherwise, yeah, they hustling you. You are not the hustler. You are the hustlee. And with exclusivity, we would get everything in table 1 that does not exist. Wow, I didn't know that. All right, apparently that's because Staples is overpriced. That's my personal opinion, though.
Yeah, they are overpriced. I don't know why they're still open.
Me either. That is one of the stores because it's always empty. Like if I go in for some weird piece of specialty equipment, it's always empty.
I mean, a lot of businesses use Staples for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know why. I think it's because they deliver and they know how to send itemized invoices quickly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's not bad. I want a new printer. I don't own a paper printer, and it normally doesn't matter until it matters. And when it matters, it's really inconvenient.
But they're so cheap. They're like $40, man. Go to
I know,
Walmart.
but then the ink is expensive, and I don't have any space, and I'm very tragically lazy. I need to just suck it up and buy one, though.
We got this.
I got a nice printer from Costco, and it uses this liquid ink, and it lasts forever.
Yeah, I've seen the big cartridges. I want to get one of those heat printers too. I think they're cool. Yeah, send me printer recommendations. Slack them to me. I need a printer, so send me printer recommendations.
We got this thing where they send us cartridges for a full month, and yeah.
Yeah, I've seen those too, and recycling them too. Yeah, Slack me your printer recommendations because I need one so I can print stuff. All right, especially if it has a scanner too. That'd be extra nice. Okay, so left joins look at your first table. So left hand, first table. These are really good for let's say, again, in our example, we wouldn't really have an order without a customer, but then we could look for errors and be like, ooh, fancy. In this example, the left join where there isn't one would be an order without a customer ID. So it would be like, ooh, something's wrong. We need to go fix that. So if that returned anything, we'd know we'd have an error. Right joins look at the second table. So the regular right join would be to show me all the customers. But that right join would show us all with the exception, would show us all the customers who have not placed an order, which is really nice. This is also one of the things I recommend printing out, that MySQL command sheet I recommend printing, and I recommend printing this one out. The visualization with the stuff is really nice. And then just be aware that MySQL does not support a full outer join. Use the left or right join. And then you can use this thing called a union. Send no order customers a coupon. Exactly. Yep. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna Slack this to you guys too, so you have this resource, and it's just a Stack Overflow question.
Where's the command list? Is that already in CBC 9?
Yes. It is called Basic Syntax, I think. Yes, this one. This is the one that has the thing that I think you should print. Or at least save it so you can see it. Okay. So I didn't talk about unions. This gets into this math theory and blah blah blah. Basically, there's unions and they are represented with a U, and it means join them together. So a wedding union. That's what it means. There's also God, what's the other word? It basically it looks like an N and it represents non-union. Maybe it is non-union. I think it might be non-union. Those are mathy terms, and it's just talking about different ways we can join stuff besides joins. I don't remember what the other one is. There's union and something else. Union's the one that we normally use, though. We very rarely want the non-union. And again, this is union wedding union, not union workers union. And so this just joins these things together. We got a customer's table, we got a supplier. I don't want to know what exotic liquid is. I really don't. But then we run it. And this is what it gives us. It gives us a whole list of all these things, which is really nice. Exotic liquid in the UK is hot sauce. That's true. Britain invaded the rest of the world to try all the spices and decided it didn't like any of them. Anyways, failed colonization. All right. So that's Union. You don't use it a whole lot, but if you are looking for specific things, this can be really nice. We also have this order by homie hanging out down here. I want to talk about him. I'm going to put this in Slack for y'all too. Listen, so like I was in the UK for a summer. Oh, this is what I want to be here. It was fun. I really enjoyed it. Boy.
I don't like the it rains too much.
Yeah, like the only flavor they got is salt.
Yeah, I know. That food is nasty.
Yeah, well, like, and like to be fair, I was also eating a lot of cheap food. So like I was eating in like the cafeteria and like, you know, Tesco. But like, homie, when I talk about some bland food, like I was like, they think that like there's this herb called watercress. It's just
like, tastes like nothing.
Nothing. It's like parsley kind of, or like maybe even like
on the sandwich and stuff.
Yeah. They're like, this is flavored with watercress, and I'm like,
tastes like nothing.
It's nothing. This is like it's flavored with lettuce.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Okay. All right. How do we feel about joins and relationships? It's a little spicy dirt and lemon.
Yep. That's basically what it is. Yep.
I like watercress, and every time I get excited, if I see it here, like stateside, I do get excited and I buy it.
Yeah, me too.
That being said, it's not a flavor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Spicy dirt lemon. Yep. There's this video, how to cook fried chicken. I don't even want to know. It's probably just flour and salt, and that's it.
No, she had 8 pieces of chicken. Like she was warming up the oil. I was like, okay, you doing good, okay. And then she started seasoning. She was like, okay, you get your salt. It was just this little pinch for 8 pieces of chicken. And I was like, and she was like, now your chicken seasoned. I was like, what?
Listen, the recipe has spices multiplied by 3 at least, especially if it's a mommy blog. If it's one of those mommy blogs, you just got to be like double next. Nope, no thank you. I've been on a Korean food kick. That's been my recent kick. Yeah, listen, and like I know I shouldn't be so judgy. I know, like I'm aware, but like man, you know when like if I have to scroll and close out of 4 ads to get to a recipe.
Well, now they got the little button that says jump to recipe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some of them do. And I'm like, okay, I can mess with this.
Yeah. Because if not, you'd be scrolling forever.
Mm-hmm. And even like, it'll be like a dumb thing. Like, have a plugin that displays on top. Yeah. Because like, it's just like, I'm like, I don't know, man. How hot should my oven be for this? And that's all I want to know.
Yeah, I know. And you get this dialogue.
Yeah, and it's like, when I was a child, and I'm like, homie, therapy time. Tell me if I can preheat my oven or not. It'd be all right, though. Okay, so, where are we? Here we are. This goes through, this is a Stack Overflow question. Yeah, it should be seasoned. It's for ads. I know. I get it. I know. And I respect the hustle. We got to make some money, but it's annoying. This goes through and explains everything, and it talks about it in depth, plus a lot of people's opinions, plus demos. I highly recommend reading this. I think it's really nice, and it's, Yeah, that's the point, is full outer joints don't exist. So this is kind of similar to the other thing I posted in Slack for y'all. Recommend reading through it though. And listen, this question's 9 years old and was active 10 days ago. So, you know, we're still out here figuring out why MySQL works the way it does. This is an article, this is W3 Schools. It goes through in depth about why these joins work. This is in your syllabus. This is the W3 Schools section. Remember, this one is SQL, not MySQL. So the full join might behave differently in MySQL, but almost everything else will be fine. And also notice, look at all these wonderful resources. Wow! And some quizzes too. Oh, by the way, we will be doing a quiz this week. We haven't done a quiz in a couple, like 2-3 weeks, because like we've been like learning concepts, not vocab, but we will have a quiz this week. It won't be too bad.
What's the big difference between MySQL and SQL, just to understand?
So SQL itself is the language. So SQL is structured query language. It is the actual set of like the language. But MySQL is an implementation of it that also includes the servers, Workbench, the CLI prompt for it. It's like all the tools to actually interact with the database and the language. You also have things like SQL Server, which is like the Microsoft flavor of it, or Oracle, or like SQLite. Those are all implementations or instances of the actual language. And that's why some of them are different. All right, what else? What is the spicy SQL? Speaking of spices, let's take a look and see what spicy SQL is. I think this breaks down how to use all of these. Is MySQL open source? Yes, I'm pretty sure it is. I am pretty sure it is. Yes, it's an open source relational database management system under a general public license. Why didn't they name it RSQL? They're not communists. We got a running thing about communism today. Communism and spices. Okay. So this kind of goes through in it, yeah, Raspberry Pi, because it's yummy. Yep. You can learn Raspberry, and they're fun and they're pretty easy to learn how to use, and you can do all sorts of cool stuff with them. Yeah, so MySQL is free to use versus Oracle. Yeah, so like you'd have to pay for all the Oracle stuff, but MySQL is free. That's why we use it. It's free, it's open source, and it's pretty standard. MySQL is part of this thing called a LAMP stack. Yeah, homie, nah, I don't pay for things. Open source all the way. All things open. I feel like every time we also talk about open source, I'm like wearing an open source shirt too. So it's very amusing to me. It's probably because I own a lot of shirts that support open source. The internet mostly says Oracle can die in a fire. Yeah, it's fine. It is not as quick to update as other things. It's on-rate, it's expensive, it can be hard to set up. You know, it's an enterprise project, and so it can be hard to use, especially at a smaller scale. So anyways, to go back to why we also use MySQL is it's part of this thing called a LAMP stack. We haven't talked too much about technical stacks yet. We will week 9, we'll talk about it. Stacks are what tools you use to build a website. LAMP is the most popular stack, and it stands for Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP. Nobody uses Perl anymore, though. So that's also why we learn it, is it's very, very common. It's what most people use, like something like 60% of the internet. So that's why we use it. So when it's being ornery, it's not my fault. Sad violin for Perl scripts. Listen, it's okay. We got Node now. So you can build a huge whole thing instead of Perl. And Perl without the A is just another programming language. That's all it is. Okay, so Spicy SQL. This goes through and shows you how to use a bunch of different commands. Got a new ingredient. There's our join with some pictures. I recommend reading through this. And it also shows you a couple of these other cool things that we have. All right, so I want to go through and show you guys these next. Let's go ahead and do our break because I think we are at a good pause point. So let's come back at 2:30. And we're back. So you guys who were hanging out with me during the break, I hope you enjoyed watching Game Grumps with me. I forgot I was still screen sharing.
Hi.
Hello. If you can't stand dumb YouTube video gamers, that's cool too. I don't blame you. They are dumb.
What YouTube video gamers you watch?
Mostly Game Grumps.
I watch Dashi and Corey Kenshin.
Mhm. This video is also totally going to get taken down because I have Game Grumps on the screen for a couple minutes, so. Yes, exactly. This is, the Game Grumps is not, intellectually stimulating, but it makes me feel like I'm back in high school and like my friends are playing a game on the couch and just being stupid. It's very nice to have on in the background. I also found out I have a monster in the back of the fridge. So we're going to do that and we'll see how that goes. There we go. It's advertising. We're advertising for Game Grumps. Okay. So we've talked about relationships. We've talked about joins. The next piece we're going to talk about is some commands that are used. May need to call a scientist. Yes. Food has been left too long in the fridge. So we're going to look at some useful SQL commands that just do really specific things that I think are just helpful to have. And I normally see people find these once they have like jerry-rigged a really ugly solution to something, and then they're like, oh, I could have just done this. So hopefully by showing you guys these things, you won't have that, oh, I spent 3 hours doing something and I could have just ran one command. So our first one that we have is group by. And group by behaves kind of weird. So what it does is it orders things for us. In other instances of SQL, we get order by, which I think works in MySQL too, but it might not behave exactly how you expect it to. So we get group by. I don't have a thing to like show you group by, but group by pandas. Oh, the Python library. I was real confused, y'all. I was like, what are you talking about, pandas? It's the Python library for data science. Okay. Group by is also really nice if you have a bunch of identical data. So like, let's say again, we have, our orders and customers table and we want to group by customers. So we want to be able to see all their orders. Like, when you go to Amazon and you click show orders, that's a group by statement. It's taking all the orders grouped by customer. And then, it's just you. Well, this is great. Thank you for this. Go ahead. So the other piece is order by. So group by takes things and smooshes them together based on similar pieces of data. Order by is like ascending and descending. So it does things like alphabetize or numeric organization. The other thing is in MySQL, when you are setting these things together, you typically can't do stuff like this. MySQL isn't a big fan of running multiple group bys and ordered bys in the same statement. They don't like to do that. So you might need to do some finagling to get it to behave. Yeah, so here's group by, group stuff. If we have similar, again, I keep saying similar, the same data. So like we're looking by customer name, we want to send a coupon to everyone who's had 5 orders. We want to, blah, 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 whatever. That is the way that we do it.
How would you write the condition?
Whatever you're looking for. So for like our customers and order ones, we would say, where, order dot count is greater than 5, or, where customer name exists, whatever check you want to put is what your condition is. Because you don't want to return like empty values or anything like that. Cool. Yeah. If they make a bunch of orders, they're probably going to make future orders. So we don't send them coupons. We just send them emails. All the students in this class, we group by stuff. Yep. So that's 58 grams of sugars in it. My teeth are going to fall out of my head, y'all. Okay. So that's group by. Group by is really nice for organizing data, especially like if you have a lot of similar data. So like inventory and like you're searching, like a shoe store and you want to see all heels, that's a group by command. You are taking that type, so where type equals heels, and organizing by that. And that's group by. And then order by is similar, and it orders by whatever constraint you hand it. So order by price, order by name, order by blah, blah, blah. So group by and order by do kind of work together sometimes, but just be aware in MySQL, sometimes it can be ornery and it doesn't want to behave. This function name here is just saying you can apply functions to columns. And we'll talk about that. We haven't seen these two yet, but that's what it's saying. So any questions about group by? Let's see this example. So we got our teachers, we got what they teach, and then we run group by name, and it gives us how much the teachers and their salary. So we have 3 teachers, Harsh, Niraj, and Ashish, I guess. I don't know. I'm probably butchering every single one of these. And then they all get paid a certain amount of money based on what class they teach. Okay, I was assuming they're teachers, but then they're like 19, so I don't know. Maybe they're TAs. And then this groups them by their name and sums up their salary. So each of these kids teach, well, okay, so he only teaches one class, but the other 2 kids TA for multiple classes. And so when we group them by this, then we get their total salary. So that's typically what group by is used for, is if we have multiple things hanging out and we want to condense them, that's what we use group by. And then also, shockingly, sums up stuff. I know, it's shocking. SQL is a very obtuse and complicated language. Cool. So that's what we use this for. So then you could be like, you would group by maybe like maybe you had a list of students and a list of teachers for like a field trip, and you want to group by teacher name so you can see all the kids in there. Or you want to group by subject, group by year, exactly. All those kind of things. You can also group by multiple columns. This gets a little bit weird, but you might get things that don't behave how you expect. But yeah, so there we go. That's what's up. We also have count, shockingly. Returns a count. Excellent. Oh, also one other, I don't think I have it in here. You also have alias. Alias. Oh, that's not spelled right. Alias in SQL. And what this does is if you get a really ugly command, you can write it as an alias, and then it will produce a pretty name for you, which is really nice. This does not fix anything. This does not change your table. This does not do anything. But it's really nice for understanding where data is coming from. So like if you're working with something and you see like, you know, order, address, ID, zip code, postal service, and it's like, you know, 7,000 things long, you can just alias it as customer address, and it's much easier to read. It doesn't change anything, but it can make it a lot easier to understand what's going on. That's not on your syllabus, it's just another useful command. Okay, so group by, we order things like that. Yeah, exactly. You can just alias the table name as blah blah blah, and it's a lot easier. So we have group by, we have alias, we have order by. We also have exists, and you just write exists. No, we're all staticky. I'm gonna do the static. And feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question. It's just for the staticky. Okay, so this just is we just slap an if exists in front of stuff, and then it'll just only run the command if it's true. It's just a nice little it's just a nice little notation for stuff. So here it says, if the to app database exists, delete it, because this is resetting something. So that's what the if exists is for, which is really nice. So like, let's say we've connected our database back to our JavaScript and we only wanted to print data, you know, if it exists. We don't want to print a whole bunch of empty stuff. We can use this. We got count, sum, and average. These are functions, which are kind of weird because like everything else we looked at doesn't behave like this. Let me see if I got a good example. Oh, we also have min and max too. So SQL functions that we have. I'm just gonna come in here. I'm gonna make. Can I? Yeah, I want to move. There we go. Hup. So let me zoom in. Boop. So SQL functions. These behave just like JavaScript functions. The notation is pretty similar. We do function name, parentheses. We got min, we got max, we got sum, we got average, and we got count. There are more, obviously, but these are the most common ones. I'm gonna put that just right here. These are just like pieces that you use to like get more information. I want the lowest price item. I want the, you know, highest temperature of the summer. I want a sum of all my student loan debt, an average grade for the class, a count of how many students are enrolled. All of these are pretty straightforward, but these are typically, I think people forget that SQL has functions, especially when you're learning. It can be kind of, it's just a detail that gets dropped a lot. I see a lot of people forget about them and then like do all sorts of crazy like inner joins and aliases and like all sorts of crazy stuff when you can just like average. So, you know, don't overlook these simple solutions. Let me dig real fast and see if I have a good, yeah. So this does it. This is looking at this little project I made. I think I could probably run this. I'll look at it while Chandler's talking and see. Oh, oops. That's not good. I should take that That was me logging myself out of my SQL instance. Oops, that's okay. So here we have select count as, which is a way of aliasing. So then I can say how many people have a Yahoo email account. That's what it's doing. And then I can get a count by month and order by descending. So then I can see what month is the least active. And so that's like the month I want to do the most promotion and all that kind of stuff. Because that's what, like, it's called structured query language because we want to ask questions with all of these pieces. Let me take a look too. We'll see. And then we can look at this. Oh no, all my stuff's gone. So sad. Oh well. We can insert this person. And then we can like see if these work. Wait. What is this one doing? Oh, here we go. Whew. So here's all the users. This was just randomly generated, like what we saw with Faker. This is another use case. I wanted to fill up my database so I could test my stuff. And then I can be like, okay, you know, we can run this. And then we can see, you know, okay, March is my least popular month. And so that's the point of all of these, is then we can make decisions based on our data. And then this kind of data science foundation is what gears us up to do things like AI and machine learning and all that kind of stuff. All right, what else? I think that is all I wanted to really cover today, so then we can do these tomorrow. So any questions about databases, relationships, joins, or other useful SQL commands? I'm going to pull up your homework and we'll talk about that, and then Chandler will probably be ready to go by then, I'm assuming. Hang on, let me see. I could have sworn he like sent me something. Okay. Okay, yeah, all right. Cool. That should be good. We will get him to join us after we do that. Not at the moment, no questions. All right, let me pull up our homework. We're in week 7. Okay, so what I want you guys to do, this is going to be the homework for the rest of your week. Get a quiz on Friday. This is what we'll be working on for the rest of the week. So what I'd like you guys to do is just, you know, do as much as you can. Think about it. You'll probably get to maybe like step 4. If you get further than that, that's great. But fork the repo. Does everybody know how to fork a GitHub repo? I forgot. Okay, let's do that. It's super easy, so no stress. So we go and we find a repo. Oh, look, I forked somebody's thing earlier. That's funny. Okay. Let's do... I have a junk one. This one doesn't have anything in it, right? What's in here? Nothing. Okay, great. So you go to the GitHub repo, and then there's this button here called fork. You click the button. You're not going to have this. It's just going to work. To the Clubhouse. You only have one account. So We clone it, or I'm sorry, we fork it. And now notice here's the original one and here's this one. So then this is your copy. So you can do whatever you want. So then I'm going to be very naughty. I'm going to edit something in GitHub like this. Pancakes. Hit it. So now my copy, the Clubhouse copy of it, is different from the main copy. Forks are used for working across different teams, or if you are going to never touch the original project. You guys aren't going to merge back to my original project. You're going to go build your own. So it's a fork. It is your own path to go do your own thing. So that's how we fork. And then you clone, git push, git add, make branches. Everything else is the same. Groovy. Not too terrible. Any questions about that piece? Easy peasy. Easy peasy. And run all these installs. Also, it doesn't say run a init, but you should run a init also. Don't put that. We haven't talked about Express or body parser yet. We will tomorrow, and that's why this homework spans a couple days, is because it's a pretty big boy. But yeah. You get through like 2 and 3. That's great. We haven't talked about connecting them yet. He's a chunky boy. All right. So that's your homework. Get through as much of it as you can. Read the code, spend time, Google stuff, ask questions, all that. But like, that's also not going to be due till like Friday. So no stress. Okay. That's all that I got. Any questions? No. Okay. All right. Here we go. He just texted me. Excellent. Hey. Okay, so he should be joining in just a second. Listen, I don't know what a beat is. It's very sad. I have a chronic case of no rhythm. It's very sad. I got you. Yeah. Give me that rhythm. All right, so he said he's going to join in just a second, so I'm just going to kind of chill. We can look up terrible dad jokes. Got some? Okay. No, I walk beats a lot. It's a habit for marching band. Yeah, that makes sense. I love watching kids fresh out of AIT and A school for the Navy. Like, they still like march, and it just like makes me laugh because they are like, you know, like trying to be very civvy. And so like, you know, they'll like be wearing civilian clothes and like trying to slouch, and then they're still walking, like marching. And I'm like, yep. If your haircut didn't give it away, everything else did. Why don't eggs tell jokes? Because they don't want to crack up. I've got apocalypse jokes until there's no tomorrow. I'm going to steal that one. I'm going to enjoy that. And then Chandler's going to immediately kick back out of the chat because I'm saying bad jokes. I don't trust stairs. They're always up to something.
Are you trying to get me to leave?
No, we're just killing time waiting for you.
Okay, one more.
Okay, give me your one more. And then we're going to do Haley's too, and then we'll let Chandler talk.
Did you hear the rumor about butter?
No, what is it?
Well, I'm not gonna spread it.
Okay, I'm going to read Haley's joke, and then Chandler is probably going to never talk to us ever again. Okay, what's the first thing a camel gets when he joins the army? Camouflage. Champion, you look like you're in physical pain. Okay. I've talked a bit about you, so they kind of know who you are. So if you want to do any more introductory stuff, feel free to. And then, yeah, that's all I got. I'm probably going to stop presenting to you.
Yep. So, hi guys. I'm Chandler. I'm sure Morgan's told you I work out of RSI. I got my bachelor's degree here locally in town in computer science, and I've been a software developer for a couple years now. Trying to find the present button. There it is. No, I don't want a window. I want the entire screen, but I only want one screen. Aha.
When you hit entire screen, it'll ask you which screen you want to share.
Yeah, I figured that part out. Okay, I'm just going to have code up on the page because we're going to get to that eventually. So I guess I'm here to kind of talk you through what, my interview process has been like.
Can you also zoom in?
Zoom in how?
I don't know, make the text bigger.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. Maybe. There's a way to do this in IntelliJ that I don't know off the top of my head.
Control plus or anything?
No, I don't think so.
Are you on the Mac or are you on your Windows?
On my Windows machine.
Oh, I don't know then.
Let me.
Don't stress about it too much. Can the rest of y'all see? I know you guys always ask me to zoom in. Can you see his stuff? Okay, we're getting nods. We're fine. Don't stress about it. Continuing.
Oh, I found out how to do it. 20. There we go.
Thank you.
So, I guess I'm just going to kind of talk a little bit about what I do right now, and just kind of get an introduction to what all I am and why you should maybe listen to what I have to say. So I've been, as I said, working at RSI for like 2 years now. A lot of the work at RSI is not. There are other ways of doing software development, and what RSI does is more along the lines of contract work, where you are sold as a resource to another company and you do software development for that company. And you're very fluid between projects. So I've been on 2 clients while I've been there. I've been working. I worked 2 years for Enterprise Holdings, which is the enterprise rent-a-car conglomerate. And a lot of what we did there was, Java work, and we were very full stack and dealing with their front end applications and managing a suite of their, claim management software. And recently I've been more engaged in the cars.com space, where we're doing a more front end role, business support, and maintaining their their current website as it's getting completely rebuilt in a different programming language right now. So that's a little bit about what I do, and just kind of a segue into why I'm looking for something different is contract work isn't as fulfilling for me personally. I mean, if you just want to write code, you can write code, be a contractor to it, more power to you. I want to have my own product. So I started actually seriously looking for a job a couple months ago, maybe 2 months ago. And initially I started with this, like, what Morgan called a shotgun approach to applying to places, where I was just going on LinkedIn, scrolling down, and just clicking apply on everything that I was seeing. I don't know how well that was working, honestly. I spent a while doing that. Would it have worked if I did it long enough? Probably, but it seems less personal, and it's also going to make your interview process later more difficult, having done that shotgun approach. So I, you know, within the last couple of weeks, I started being more strategic about, how I'm applying to things. So, I'm doing research about the company, knowing what I'm getting into ahead of time, really tailoring my resume to the actual people that I'm applying to and not just, blasting my resume out and hoping that someone bites. So once I started doing this more strategic style of, you know, sending out applications, I've I got a couple rejection letters. I got significantly more rejection letters doing the shotgun style approach, and that's one thing that was fairly disheartening, was to see all those rejection letters. But most of the time, you have to remember those aren't people writing those. That's more or less a system just automatically replying because your resume didn't get through their automatic parser for resumes. Once I got through, with the strategic style, sending out my resume, I got reached out to by a company, and I just kind of want to walk you through the process of what that's looked like. Initially they reached out, and it was just a text conversation back and forth between me and their CTO, just kind of discussing, hey, this is what the position is. We thought your resume looked very good. We were impressed with your experience. And it's easy when things are in a text form like that. Yes, the CTO is the Chief Technical Officer. Thank you, Morgan. Decode the TLA, or yeah, the TLA, the three-letter acronym. It's something that working in client services has helped me understand, that it's easy to dismiss text conversations as an unprofessional environment where you can just kind of reply quickly and not have any not pay any attention to your grammatical structure or how you're talking. But when you're doing things like this, I urge you, pay attention to that, because it is easy to get in that trapped mindset of, oh, it's just a text conversation, I can say whatever and it's going to be fine. I know I personally can fall into that very easily, and it's something that I've worked through.
Or repeatedly say stuff after I've said you're annoying me. Oh.
Hey, listen.
I do the same thing.
I know. So I guess I'm going to talk a little bit about, that first initial interview. So, I went back and forth with them a couple times on an email thread, just, kind of saying, hey, this is what the role's about. Are you interested? It's not exactly what you have done in the past, but would you be comfortable, learning some new things? And, don't I guess I had a thought there, and now it's gone into the ether. Either way, went back and forth for a little bit, and then we got to the, actually scheduling a one-on-one, just phone interview, not face-to-face, just, audio. And, I met with their CTO again, and, we had about a 30-minute conversation. And this conversation was a lot less technical. It was more of like a culture interview, asking me questions like, how do you work in a team environment? Do you prefer this sort of team environment over this sort of team environment? And, also asking me, higher level programming questions, or not even programming questions, but like process questions, like how do you know how Agile works? And have you worked with a Kanban board or a Jira board? And kind of very vague, not vague, but more higher level questions where it's not, down into the nitty gritty, just kind of getting an idea of, is this person going to fit well in this team environment? Yeah, no, and that's a point that I don't want this to be a one-sided conversation. Like, interrupt me if I just seem like I'm rambling, ask me questions. I am more than willing to answer your questions. So ask higher level questions like, Kanban boards, Jira boards, how do you work in a team environment? What have you had direct conversations with product before? Kind of gauging, where I've been in the software development process and kind of getting a fit for, yes, Jira is essentially Trello. It's a fancier Trello that you have to pay for. And once we got through that interview, it was pretty quickly. I mean, while we were still on the phone, he said, "Okay, yeah, I think we're going to move forward with you. Let's schedule, or well, not schedule anything, but I'm going to send you later a prompt for a programming project. And this is something that they're doing instead of having like a direct technical interview. They're having you complete like a big project from start to scratch." Now, he sent me, these requirements, and, I'll show you this in a minute here. He sent me the requirements for the program, and, he gave me kind of a loose timeline of how long it normally takes people to do it. He's like, some people have done this in a couple hours, some people have taken a couple days to do it and really, taken their time on it and done something really well, or something, above and beyond. So, I took around about 2 days. That's about how long I took to make it. And I'll talk more about the project in depth in a minute here. I just wanted you to get through most of the process that I've gone through so far. So I gave them that programming project. I made sure to send them 2 versions of that. That's something that something I've got from college, is get used to sending things about 3 different ways because inevitably one of them's going to break. I pushed it up to a GitHub repo. I sent them a zip file. So hard is a relative question. I had to relearn a lot of things I hadn't done in a while, but it wasn't intentionally made to be difficult. It was a very like, build this thing with these very specific requirements, and you'll see that in a minute when I show you the requirements. Gauging how hard it is how familiar you are with the technology. And, I had to kind of relearn a bunch of stuff because I hadn't touched the specific technology in a minute. That's something about what you guys are doing now is you're learning how to code in JavaScript, but a lot of that stuff transfers. I mean, you learn a coding language, you know all of them. Barring like esoteric languages like Arnold script. So after I turned in that programming project, it took them a couple days to get back to me. They're like, "Hey, we got it. We're gonna look at it, and we'll let you know." And I guess like a couple days later, towards the end of the week, they said, "Hey, yeah, we really like the project. We're gonna schedule an interview with you." Now, they didn't call it an interview, which is something that threw me off. They called it a meet the team, and it was slated for 2 hours, which was a treat. But this isn't for a very entry level position. This is for like a mid tier, like designing a product as well as also building the product positions. They want to get a good idea. No, I have not, but that is something that does happen. So the question, have you ever had a company to trick you into doing work for their company for your interview? That is something that happens. I think the biggest way that you can make sure a company isn't doing that is, Glassdoor the company, do your research beforehand. Don't get too invested into something. If it starts to seem like it's going fishy, be willing to drop it. After I had that 2-hour interview, and it was slated as a meet the team, but a lot of people around me were like, "Hey, it's an interview." So, you know, dress nice. You can't be overdressed. Doesn't exist. You know, I went for, well, no, so yes, try to be nice to yourself for the 2-hour interview, but they were also very, you know, like, hey, you just went 30 minutes with this other guy. Do you want to take like a 2-minute break and breathe a little bit? which was nice. That interview was packed. I met with all sorts of different people from their team. I met with, you know, executive product people who are, you know, designing the product that they're trying to sell. Not like actually building it, but, you know, making wireframes and making business decisions, you know, for the direction that the project is going to take. And then, you know, I also met with other UI UX guys that, you know, they don't really write code, but they visual QA all your stuff. So this one, it is a startup, but it's been around for a while. It's been around for about 4 years. They are profitable, and that is something to look at when you are interviewing. If you're about to start up life and you want to jump all around, go ahead, do it.
So one note about this, we will talk in depth about like how to find a job that looks like it's going to be here in a month, and make sure you get paid. We'll talk about it in depth. But if you do want to work for a startup too, other things to look at are, do they have money and do they have clients? Because a lot of times people will be really excited about their idea and have no clients. And so then you might not get paid, or, you know, 6 months down the road, you don't have a job anymore.
Or is there a product even in market yet?
Yeah, product and market is also very important. I don't really recommend working for a company that does not have a product and market unless it's your company.
Yes, I have had friends try to recruit me into their own product that is not on the market yet. I keep telling them, no, you get in the market, I'll come. So back to where we were. You know, met with the UI UX guy, talked a lot with him about how I work with product and, you know, how I would, you know, have that conversation between someone that's not as technical and someone who are trying to, you know, essentially speak 2 different languages at the same time, trying to speak product speak and trying to speak tech speak, and being able to take product speak, figure out what that's going to look like technically, and see if, you know, can we even do this in the technology that we're using? Is this, do you have any other better ideas? A lot of questions that are more towards the product side. And then, you know, we got into the last 2 guys that I met with were their, you know, actual programmers, and this was where, you know, it got to be more of an actual technical interview, which was not expecting personally, but, you know, I had done enough work in Angular the last couple of days that I was like, okay, I can probably kind of figure out what they want to ask me. And that's something that,
What's Angular?
well, it's Angular is a very low market share JavaScript framework. If you're going to learn one and you want to be in the Java space, learn Angular. If you want to be in literally any other space, Vue or React. Angular is only used in Java because of its ease of integration with certain dependency management tools that we have. So, you know, we got into the technical interview, and they asked me, you know, yes, Java, the actual, you know, programming language that runs on the Java runtime. Train of thought. Technical questions. So, you know, they asked me very specifically, like, hey, if you have this child element and you have a parent element, how would you get data from the child to the parent? And, you know, it's a very like honed in question about Angular. And that's something that like you should probably know if you work in Angular. And something of note of that, I didn't know that answer off the top of my head when they asked me that. But I didn't say I don't know. I said, oh, yeah, I've kind of worked with that before. It's been a minute. But, you can get the idea of like, oh yeah, there's an object that you put in on the child that talks up to the parent, and you kind of try and go higher level. And they're like, oh yeah, I get where you're going. That's something with us technical people is if you get close enough, they're like, oh yeah. That's probably how you do it. Because Morgan was telling me about an interview she had the other day that I'm like, nope, that answer was close enough. But yes, it is okay to not know something. The issue is when you straight up say, I don't know. Be graceful in not knowing something. Say, hey, I don't know that, but I know these things that I could use to figure out what it is, and I could figure it out pretty quickly.
Yeah, that second part of I'm not sure, but here's how I would figure it out is what they're really looking for. And like that's especially something when interviewing with a technical lead or a project manager is not necessarily depth of knowledge, but understanding problem solving skills. Because the old instructor who used to teach this class would play this game called Stump the Chump, and he would literally just keep asking really hard technical questions until the person he was interviewing just kind of broke. And so you get to a point where you're like, I don't know what the difference between, the implementation of Lambda functions in ES6 and ES7 is. No one does. So I don't know is okay, but follow it up. We should play that. We do. We play Kahoot.
Yes, be graceful in not knowing something. No one is expecting you to remember every single nuance about whatever framework you're in. That's impossible. Us as software developers, we are professional Googlers, and that is almost half of our job. Being able to know the framework enough to get to, Google your way through a problem. So honestly, if you want to prepare for a technical interview, it depends. If you are interviewing for a place like Google, they're going to slam you with algorithm questions, and it's not going to be very like, how do you do this thing in this technology? But, example with my, the startup that I'm trying to get into, they asked very specific technical questions. And the only real way to prepare for something like that would to be build a project. Build a project in the technology that they use because they're going to ask you questions about that technology. Helpful enough, they asked me to do that before I went into their interview process. So they accidentally prepared me for their interview. Yes, side projects everywhere. They don't have to be unfun. Make them something fun. I guess that's essentially where I'm at with the interview process with them. I'm waiting to hear back from that interview that actually happened Monday. Still fairly mentally drained from that. It's a 2-hour interview process is something to definitely prepare for. It's a lot and very mentally taxing to spend 2 hours just selling yourself and being very talkative and loud. Someone like Morgan is very used to doing that for 4 hours a day, but software developers like me are used to having a 15-minute stand-up and also being half asleep in that stand-up. I guess, are there any questions about, that interview process or anything I do before, we kind of...
Sylvia asked a question about, did your research show you what technology they were using?
No, but I could tell. So one of the things that I did, I went straight to their website. I went to their website and poked around and saw what kind of software that they make. Because, they're going to make their own website. That's
That's not true.
I figured a startup that small
A startup
would
probably.
build their own website.
For small startups, they will probably make their own website, but don't bet on that. It has been my personal experience that a lot of people who build software will just be super lazy and just use like a WordPress site or something to make their actual like sales website. So caveat on that. Worthwhile, can show you a lot about their code base, but you know, like I know RSI doesn't make their own website for a fact. So, you know, I'm going to just caveat that one.
Yeah.
Just
So
one more question. I think it's easier to ask it. I'm sorry. In your research, then, not so much maybe the technology or languages that they're using, but just like the culture about the company and what they do, just kind of knowing those type of things is good preparation for just the normal interview part then.
yeah, for sure. Because from, I went to their website and saw a lot of, I mean, obviously that's all cherry pick stuff that they put on their website, and it's not going to show the bad parts about them. But you can see, quotes from their CEO, what their actual business is, what their product is. This one particularly, I could tell that it was a SaaS, software as a solution or software as a service type of, application. I could tell it was about helping, leaders get their goals done. So I'm like, okay, it's probably kind of like a Trello thing, but it seems like it's a little bit more high level than that. It seems like there's a lot more to it, and you can tell from what they're talking about, because their sales website is also trying to sell their product to other people. So my situation with RSI is unique. I am not technically a contractor. I work for a company that uses me as a contractor. So I get full benefits if I want. I don't take them because I'm still in that 25 to 26 range where my parents can pay for things. But I can't speak to other contract work. I have a friend that is a contract worker like that, and I have never heard him complain about benefits before. So I'm assuming that he has to do his health insurance himself. But my situation is particularly unique because RSI is kind of a contracting firm. Let me make sure I hit everything I wanted to talk about. And then I can kind of jump into the project that I built. Okay. So if no one's got any more glaring questions, I'm gonna kind of move on to this fun screen that I've got over here. Hearing none. So I want to start by showing you the prompt that they sent me, right? So you can see they have this list of requirements, what I'm going to call functional requirements of the application, what it's supposed to do. Display section with a ball, orbiting a ball. Make sure it has 2 different animation variables, orbit speed, spin speed. Make sure that you have a left sidebar and a form inside of it that controls those, variables. A control to stop or stop the orbit, a button to change like what is orbiting the thing, and specific implementation details about how that should work. This button should call a backend endpoint that does this. And I think what's important in this is to be able to parse through the requirements and make sure you hit them, because this is a big part of what they're trying to do, is make sure that you know how to parse requirements and you can build an app from requirements. You have enough autonomy to say, oh, they need a nav bar, I can make a nav bar. They don't tell you how it should look. They don't tell you like what colors to use. They leave that to you, and you can let your creativity ride on that. I took their company logo and used one of the color palette generators and made like a custom theme in my app that I'll show you. And just kind of use their colors to be cheeky. So let's talk about what this tech stack looks like. He said somewhere in here, I remember reading it, where he says, use a backend technology of your choice. You look confused.
Why are you using Gulp?
It was a bonus point.
Okay.
I didn't use it. I skipped
Okay,
that.
good.
I didn't
Yeah.
bother with that. I was like, there's no
We
need to
don't
use
use
that.
tags either. Yeah. Yeah. That's what Gulp is a we're gonna learn npm scripts instead because it's the newer way to do it. That's easier, but it was a build process tool. So there's Gulp and Brunt, and those are the big boys, but they're getting overwritten by npm scripts. That's why I was confused, is because like it's an Angular project. What? I mean, sure, whatever.
Yes, Angular has some really nice directives inside of it that help with animation, which anyone that doesn't know what Angular is, that was complete tech garbage speak that you didn't understand. But
That's okay. Lots of tech garbage speak. That's what we do here.
yes. So yeah, there we go. Your backend may use the language and setup of your choice. So obviously go with something you're comfortable with. If you want to be fancy, be fancy. But I went with something I'm comfortable with. I know it works well. I know Java works well with Angular because Maven has specific, Maven's a dependency manager suite for Java. And it works well in conjunction with Angular and Java. So I went with that. I knew that was the best choice to go with. They made sure, hey, use Angular, use CSS, and, make sure your HTML isn't, ugly and disgusting. And other specific noteworthy things, your design should be responsive. So, I mean, you can't build a web app anymore without building for mobile first anymore, but he made sure to add that caveat. So I made sure it was responsive and, worked well on mobile as well. So time for the scary bit, the code. This was not actually what I turned in. I have been unable to put this down and have been working on this several days after I turned it in because I obsess and I can't help myself. This is Angular, and Angular is a treat. So it's a JavaScript framework that uses TypeScript as its main language, which is a superset of JavaScript. It is, kind of. It is a markup. Well, so parts of it are markup. You can see I am actually using HTML files here. The wonderful thing about Angular, and I will show you here, they have their own special, element tags that you probably haven't seen before. So I am running the application. So let me show you what we've got as an application. That's what we got. It's a planet orbiting a planet, and you can't really tell that it's got rotation because it's moving so fast. But if I get a bigger planet, you can see that was one of the struggles that I had while working through this was how do I spin the planet? Like what kind of spin do they want? And that's one thing that you want to do right out the gate. Figure out what you don't know and what you need to know and ask them. Do not be afraid to ask them clarification questions on the requirements because they have probably left some things intentionally vague so they know if you're willing to ask questions.
Yeah, that is a big, big thing. It is like asking well thought out questions is critical for being a developer. like being able to be like, hey, this specification says this. Is this what you actually mean? It's a really important skill to have.
Yes, it is very much a learned skill. It is not something you're going to be good at out the gate. It took me years to finally crack that skill. You know, it's always developing. So, you know, you can change the rotational period where, you know, it spins a lot slower, or you can, you know, really fast and break it because you put too high of a number in, so it's actually spinning faster than it can. You know, it spins really fast. Break the animation if you spin it too fast. Something I do want to point out, make sure that you validate your input on any form field ever. That is something that they are going to look at because it lets them know that you're thinking about the application and not just meeting requirements. Because I don't believe they required me to validate inputs. Yeah, they said make sure to apply validation to the fields if it makes sense. So they didn't specifically say, you know, validate this field. But, you know, obviously you can't have a negative orbital period. I mean, you can't. Time doesn't go backwards. That we're getting too deep into physics if we're going time backwards.
I really love that you're like, no, you can't do that. Wait. No.
Well,
I know. We actually had a conversation today about this, about like how do you define relationships in SQL? And sometimes you just make a decision and you stick to it.
Yes. Yes. So that was something I did think of. You could orbit the opposite way, but the way that I implemented it, it wouldn't have worked to put a negative number in to flip the rotational speed. I will show you what exactly is going on with that and why you can't do that with this particular thing. But, you know, I knew it wouldn't work, so I made sure that you couldn't put in a negative number. You know, nice error messages, red in your face, tell them it's wrong. Don't like put in black text under it. It must be positive. No one's going to see that. They're going to think your design's bad because you didn't, you know, that's a UI UX thing. And so, you know, we have this button that they outlined to, you know, stop and start the planet orbit, which was something, I think that was something I asked him. So this is another thing that I want to point out, this, you know, estimating time on how long it's going to take to do something. That's another one of those software development skills that you're going to learn over time. That's not something you're going to be good at out the gate. My rule of thumb has always been, how long do you think it's going to take times 2? Because something's always going to go wrong.
That's really funny. Like, as you said that I was typing.
Oh, yeah. No,
so
that's me and Britt's rule of thumb. If you get a number, multiply that by 2.
I also like to do, okay, it's going to take me 3 hours to make it, plus an hour to test. Okay, this is going to take me 8 hours. So
yeah, like,
even though it feels like 3 hours of work, it's probably actually 8 hours of work.
Yeah, and you have to factor in, you know, all of the steps to that. You know, like, you know, specifically with stuff that I do currently with cars, I can't just say, oh, it's going to take me 2 hours to write this little bit of code, because it might take me 2 hours to write that little bit of code, but then I have to QA it. I have to get everyone to approve the pull request. I have to deploy it through Jenkins. I have to do all these other steps that could also blow up in the process. So overestimating and delivering before you estimate is better than underestimating and delivering after you estimate.
Yeah, I like to say under promise and over deliver.
Yes, that's another way to say that.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about these I had a stroke there. Clarification questions. So one that, you know, was glaring to me, the design that I saw originally, you know, looked like this, but the way that it was described in his requirements felt like this start and stop button needed to be a part of this form. I thought that looked kind of dumb. It didn't make sense to me to have another button here for start and stop. So I asked him, I was like, hey, do you want that in the form or do you not? Because I think it looks better this way. And, he answered back, he's like, do whatever you want. Like, good catch. Those are those things that they're like, oh, he asked a good question. That's something we didn't think about. That's something we didn't originally put out. And the other requirement that he had in here was build a directive into your implementation. Now, someone that doesn't know Angular, that's not going to make any sense. But for all intents and purposes, a directive is like a decorator that you can put on HTML elements that runs JavaScript in the background. It's TypeScript, but it's kind of the same thing. It's a strongly typed JavaScript, essentially, is what it is. It's object oriented, but it's more object oriented than JavaScript is. JavaScript is more fluid between object orientation and functional. So then another question, going off of that directive question, I was like, hey, because I know personally how directives work, and it felt kind of weird to just kind of shove a directive in there. I was like, hey, the directive I'm making, do you want a custom one? Because there are ones that are already there that would do what I want to do. And he's specifically said build a custom one, so I made sure I did. So this is Angular. These are those fancy HTML, elements, the specific elements that they have. So you can see this mat toolbar. That's something you've probably never seen before in HTML because it's specifically to Angular. That whole element there builds this entire thing for me. That is particularly why these JavaScript frameworks are helpful, because they let you push code out very quickly for things that look standard, look nice. And, so you see this sidebar over here, and I can point out that there are some quality of life things. I can collapse this. You can see there are animations for I highlight over something and there are actual click animations. I didn't write any of those. That's all built into Angular. So you can see this mat side nav container. That whole container is, this guy. So the basic structure of Angular, you have, HTML components and you have your actual, application component on it. So this is your, JavaScript, but it's really TypeScript, but it's essentially just JavaScript. And, it's got a bunch of, flair to it that's very specific to Angular. Like you have to call it a component and, you can import the way you expect. I don't want to turn this into an Angular lecture, but I could go into this for a couple hours. There's a lot of stuff here that is very specific to Angular. Does anybody have any particular questions?
So how hard is it to learn Angular?
Angular specifically is one of the more difficult ones to learn just because of how nuancy it is. Angular does a lot of weird things that don't really conform to normal standards that you would see in Vue or React. It's not difficult, but it's not easy.
Okay,
what would I compare Angular to? it's really hard to it. How would you describe, JavaScript libraries like that? Because I mean, all they are is just quality of life things.
So when we're using frameworks, Irene, I'm going to mute you and off the data key. Maybe, if anything will let me. Yes. Come on.
Oh.
Thank you. I appreciate
Hey,
it.
I can do it.
Look at that. Y'all can mute each other. Don't be mean
Oh,
to each
we learned that you can kick people from calls in the car stand-up the other day, and that was fun.
Yeah. So frameworks are just, you know how like we've worked with modules and like how we've talked about the JavaScript API that allows us to access code that we haven't written. Frameworks are kind of the same thing, except for instead of just like going and getting a couple like pages of a book, it's a lot more like, hey, if you want to use any of this thing, you have to make everything else match. So it's a little bit more like agreeing to a like cult doctrine versus like, that's a good life tip. So library frameworks like this are more, here's how you use the whole thing again. So that's what React, Vue, and Angular are. There's also Ember, but nobody uses Ember. So
Yeah, so to speak on what she was saying with this, cult doctrine, forms in Angular are essentially a cult doctrine. They are obnoxious to build, very finicky, but once you figure them out, you can make them fairly easy. This was the biggest challenge for me in this, was building this form. I went through a couple iterations of different technologies for forms that exist in Angular. I ended up going with their reactive forms where, they have nice quality of life error handling. So where I've got this, orbit form dot controls dot rotational speed dot touched. It's like, hey, has the user already, touched this? And I didn't have to write any custom JavaScript to do that. It was already here. And it's like, hey, the user hasn't touched this yet, and the user, like, if the user has touched it, or if they submit it, we want to make sure that, this error isn't true. And if it is, we'll show that, that red text in the span, using, Bootstrap's text danger class, make it red. I think that's about all I got. I guess I can show you the fun animations, if I can remember where they are in this project. So let's see. This doesn't really matter. This is just, passing variables from the parent. So you can see this at input. And you see the selector celestial orbit animation. You'll see in the actual app component that I have a celestial orbit animation. So I've essentially made my own HTML element using, I didn't make any of the other stuff. I just made that class, and Angular handles the rest of that. But, I can pass in this input variable that I have here. So like animate planet. I have animate planet. And in here I can pass in, variables from the current class that I'm in. So the app component TypeScript class, I can pass in variables that exist on that TypeScript file through the HTML. It's very nice quality of life stuff that, I don't have to write any custom JavaScript that would handle throwing those variables into DOM elements or links for routing to go to other things. I made a. So this was the directive that I made for him, the planet animation directive, and essentially what it did was just apply a bunch of CSS styles to it. But it helped with being able to, update the orbital speed and the the planet color and all that, because I can just pass it in again through those input variables we talked about, and I could just use them in that directive. And so the CSS for it, I managed to do all of those animations in CSS. Mainly because I cheated and went to CodePen and found someone that already did it. Don't reinvent the wheel if you don't have to. That is one of the biggest things that I have taken away from software development in the last 2.5 years. If the wheel is there, just copy and paste it and don't rewrite it, because it's going to work better than the one you wrote and someone already wrote it.
After making sure that you're not just like putting malicious junk code into your database or whatever.
Well,
You
yes,
have to
but
read it.
that's part of the 2 years of doing that you gotta test your waters, figure out your viable sources, and also read your own code base and make sure you don't already have a helper function that exists to do the thing you're trying to do.
That you had spent 3 days on struggling and wanting to die and sending me many a text complaint.
Yes, don't write custom regex functions to custom parse XMLs when there already exists that function 3 lines above the one you're writing.
Not from personal experience or anything.
Not from personal experience at all. I didn't do that just yesterday. Something you will learn in software development. It is full of mistakes and failure, and you got to figure out how to roll with it. You're always going to make mistakes. You're going to bring down a production server. You're going to do something that's going to break something horribly. There's always a way to fix it. Git revert.
Yep. I should probably start doing this with all my technical people. What's the worst technical mistake you've made? And I'll share mine, because most
They asked me that in my Inigo interview.
Yeah.
That was the first one of the initial questions. He was like, how have you dealt with production issues you've made? I was like, I've only made one, but I can talk about it.
Are you going to talk about it?
Oh, talk about it now? Oh, well,
Yeah.
So I didn't particularly make this production bug, but I let it slip past me in QA one time. All right, you broke it.
I just set my cup down on my plate. Leave me alone.
It sounded like breaking glass.
I just set my cup down. It's fine.
So Enterprise has a large suite of apps, and one of them in particular is a payment management thing for their insurance claims.
I remember you being real stressed about this.
Yes. So Enterprise has a bunch of hidden processes that a lot of people didn't know about. One particular one being the auto bill functionality, which would generate a button on the screen if this very specific subset of conditions is met, and then you would just click the auto bill button, it would automatically generate that payment. Well, I was QAing someone's work that dealt with a part of that functionality that wasn't directly related to that functionality, but it used a common service that a lot of things use. And we didn't test the specific case where, if you do auto bill, it accidentally doubles this number. So whenever people were using auto bill, which they use mainly in Europe for whatever reason, I don't know why, but it was a very often occurrence in the European environments where they would be double billing people, and it was causing production, that's the production issue when you double bill someone. And so dealing with that as the QA person, looked a lot like, oh, hey, we missed this thing. How are we going to not miss this in the future? And what can I do to ease the process to get this bug fix out to production? So, that's researching how this, functionality works, keeping in touch with that developer and making sure, like, hey, did you test this specific flow? And, just making sure you hammer down on things. I don't think I've pushed any broken code yet.
I have.
Yes, I know you have. You've brought down entire servers, you little technical gremlin.
I'm not a gremlin. Okay, maybe I am.
She worked at RSI. It's a curse that comes out of the RSI space. You have to break something once in your life.
No, you have to. That's being a developer. It doesn't matter where you work. Because I mean, that's when I was at your mom knows it. Lit.
She does. I know her mom.
Yes, my mom does know I'm a gremlin. We were talking about the fact that my mom and I just steal things from each other all the time.
Yes.
I was trying to explain many to relationships with how my mom and I consider our clothes and jewelry.
Wouldn't that mean you can both be wearing it at the same time?
Don't break my metaphors, homie.
Talking to a sequel master.
I know. Yeah, ask him sequel questions. He's the person that if I don't know how to do a sequel thing, I go ask him. So
I'm in the Clubhouse chat.
yeah, yeah, he's in our Slack. So
I'm probably not supposed to have an account there, but
yes, but I get to add people, so because I also put Dan in the Slack too. So
well, he was actually a member though, right?
because he took a class, he never paid for anything.
Oh.
Because it's Dan, so he doesn't pay for anything.
Yeah, no, I can answer any Java question you have. Granted, you're probably not gonna ask me many Java questions. SQL is one of my, RSI calls them subject matter experts. That's one of the things that I am an expert around. I've done countless hours of writing SQL queries, especially for enterprise. Learn to love it, because it doesn't go away. Morgan still hates it.
I have an irrelevant question.
Zizi, you're super quiet.
Yeah, you're pretty quiet.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. I have an irrelevant question, but I wanted to ask on your input. So, if Minecraft was made in 2020, what coding language do you think they would use?
I guess that really depends. Because, they particularly wrote it in Java probably because of the open sourceness, because of it being... I have been around the Minecraft space for a while. This is a question actually not so irrelevant to me. The difference between how they've done their two versions of that game, they did one in C++ in a .NET style, and they did one in a Java style. That Java style is more open source and more open to modding and manual manipulation of that game. And doing something in C++ like that really locks down a game and makes it significantly more difficult to write mods for. I mean, it's possible, but it's not worth the time when there's another version of it that's in a more, Java's documented, it's well done.
Makes sense. And also, have you played Minecraft? Have you beat the dragon?
I've probably put more hours into that game than you have put into this class and your high school career and anything before that. I have played that game way too much.
Oh man, what kind do you have? Like, we should play together. I need help.
I haven't played the game in years. I don't know. I say I don't have the time, but I just don't have the drive to play it anymore. I have a lot more things I like doing more now.
Grand Theft Auto and so much chess.
Yes, chess is my recent obsession.
Yes, like I'll look over and he's just like in depth in like a chess puzzle and he's like, I'm learning. Excellent. You do that. Makes and learns. All right.
Never stop learning.
Never stop learning, yeah. Even if it's hard, even if it's a struggle. But yeah, I've told you guys about my greatest tech failure. I brought down an entire production server for a weekend. So that's why we make backups, y'all.
I wasn't dating her at the time, so I didn't get to deal with the stress. But
You got some you got some like side adjacent stress.
I doubt it.
I don't know. I guess we weren't hanging out that much. I think we were doing D&D and that was it. It's okay.
Also, another thing to note about the interview process, your email is going to be destroyed within like a day. Once you sign up for Indeed and LinkedIn job alerts, your email is destroyed. It's done.
I didn't sign up for job alerts.
I did. Indeed pings me about every hour. It's like, we have a new job you might be interested in. And I was like, I remember saying I want remote work, but you guys keep sending me non-remote jobs. It's probably a good idea to write like a rule to throw them in a folder. Just throw everything from Indeed into a folder.
Just don't talk to me.
No.
Oh, also, I guess you've said this, but I do want to reiterate it. You're going to get rejection letters. That is not a personal judgment on you, your skills, or your abilities. It could be a whole bunch of stuff. It could be they have internal people that they're hiring, but they had to post the job publicly. It could be that they already have a candidate in mind. It could be you're missing, you're 1 month short of being where that, they want you to be. Like,
the hardest thing is getting past that first interview. Like getting to the first interview.
Yeah.
Getting your resume seen by someone is part of the hardest thing.
Yep. Yeah, rejection letters are nice. That means that probably a human person has seen it. And like, it sucks. It sucks to get rejection letters and it hurts. And like, it especially hurts to get a rejection letter after you've interviewed, but like, it's part of the process and it's okay. And also like, try to handle things with grace and like,
Yes, don't get on Glassdoor and bash them immediately if they don't give you a job.
Yeah, definitely not. But, if you can be like, okay, thanks for reaching out. I appreciate it. Let me know if you have anything in the future. They might, like maybe you didn't work out for that one particular thing, but, they might need something that you'll line up with better next time.
That's how I got my job at RSI, by the way. Yeah. I originally interviewed at RSI for a database position, and I got beat out by he who shall not be named, and then got a better position in Java in what I actually wanted to do. It was, their HR person at the time, Lauren Bowers. Yeah, Lauren Bowers. She, emailed me and was like, hey, we're not going to move forward with this position. It was like, well, we have this other position. Do you want that one? And, it was originally what I wanted to do, so obviously I said yes, but...
Yeah, it does happen.
We realized I was been pretending this whole time. You guys have been staring at WebKit keyframes.
I accidentally, on our break, I started watching Game Grumps, and so we all watched Game Grumps during my break. So I was eating and watching Game Grumps on my break. So this, recording is going to get banned and kicked. Copyrighted content. I was entertained. Yeah. At least it wasn't anything super spoily, like I was watching like the end of a movie or something. Or anything bad. It's just some kids playing Sonic. I guess I shouldn't call them kids, since Dan is older than us combined. Cool. Do you guys have any other questions? Being Puppy Cat. I enjoyed that show. I thought it was cute.
No, but we appreciate your time. Thank you so much. You're awesome.
I guess I am going to try and pack up a Mac now.
Oh, okay. I was confused. Okay, I'll see you later.
The sneak peek into Angular is, it was very much a sneak peek. Learn it if you want to. It's not easy. It's not hard, but it's not easy.
I recommend React, honestly. I would
Yes.
do React, Bootstrap. Those would be what I would learn next. And then maybe an object-oriented language like C# or Java. Cool. So you guys know what I want you to do for homework. I hope this was helpful. I hope seeing projects that people are building and talking through their process is helpful, and talking to somebody who's like actively going through interview processes. Oh, more dad jokes. Okay. All right. Let's see how many dad jokes it takes to get Chandler to disconnect. Okay. Oh.
We didn't even start yet. I was going to them.
He hates my dad jokes. I torture him with them. So he hates
Yeah.
them.
I got like a whole list of them, and I didn't even get to say one, and he was gone already.
The two fish one. Like that. All right. Yep, that's all I got for you. Slack me if you got any questions. This video will probably be uploaded much sooner than tomorrow.
Okay.